Hello, Marion, and hello, Bo. Now we are back again. Welcome both. Special welcome to Marion. How are you today, Marion?
I'm fine, thank you. Sitting in London town where it's raining, yes.
Yeah. And Bo, how are you, my friend?
I'm very well. How about you?
Oh, fine. The sun is shining in my heart.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is, I don't know how many broadcasts we have done at this moment, but today, Marion, you will talk about Rose Gladden. Who is she? Who is Rose?
Rose Gladden was, because she's passed over quite a few years ago now, she was, for the first, a healer. She was a fantastic healer. And she was also mediumistic in her own way with her healing. But there's also another side to Rose Gladden that I really have to say I started to understand and to learn. And that was that she dealt with what we call exorcism. I think that in Denmark they call it the cleansing of houses or something like that. But that is what really got me fascinating about Rose Gladden and that side of her work. And I probably go back many, many years at the time when I was working in a spiritualist church, where Rose came and saw me work and quite enjoyed the work in which I was doing. But I was introduced by her by a friend of mine called Bob. And Bob himself is a character in which I have to explain again, because the whole story hangs together, you see. Everything with me is always very entwined, as what we call it in my mediumship. Bob was a guy, we call him a naughty boy, because he ended up in prison for a while. He came from a family of high religion, specifically from his stepdad, who was a Jehovah's Witness. So Bob could never speak about spiritualism, the things, whatever. So he was bored. So Bob in his youth, he was what we call a petty thief, which meant that he didn't do murder. He didn't hit people on the head, but he loved to go into people's houses and steal from them. So that is the beginning of his life. Bob Course, which is his name, don't mind me mention that one, I learned to know after he came out of prison. And that was extraordinarily interesting, because that it was when he was in prison that he had the vision. He had certain kind of experiences with spirit. He knew really nothing about spirit, but he was in prison where obviously a lot of thieves and God knows what else was there. But he learned extremely lot about himself and about his life and about prison and also about spiritualism. So when he came out of prison as a good boy, then he took up with looking for spiritual activities. He wanted to know what it was. And at the time, he lived in a place in London known as Battersea. And he came then into Stockwell Spiritualist Church, where he met me and where we started to have conversations together. He was quite open about his criminal activities and things like that. And that is also where we met Rose Gladden. He met Rose first, I have to say, because he was interested in that time of the healing, because he had experiences that people was afraid of him because of his theft, and when he was in houses and maybe people was there when it happened, and all sorts of things like that. So that was all those kind of things. There was what I would say part of his life and development. So he met Rose Gladden because he went for healing. And then he got interesting in the healing. But then he also became fascinating with Rose Gladden because she had these other things with him, which of course were part of exorcism, cleansing houses, people, that kind of thing. And we all had a mutual friends together, a lady called Winnie Kent, or Kent, yeah. She no longer is alive neither. So it was like we all were together. But that was how I first got introduced to Rose Gladden that was via Bob Course from the Spiritualist Church in London. And we then started to talk about various different kind of activities that was around and things like that. Now, on this stage, I have to explain that I did not understand spiritualism in the sense of knowing about there was two sides, the light and the dark. I understand spiritualism as being in communication, given the evidence, sitting in circles and so forth. But I actually had no idea that there was other parts, if you like. This is what Rose Gladden came into my life to teach me something else. So Rose Gladden, for me, was my teacher on exorcism, on negative spirit, on houses that was possessed, people that was possessed, and things like that. And I was surprised when I started to learn about this, I have to say, really, really, really surprised. Because as I said, it was part where I didn't know anything about, but it's like anything else. You have to learn everything within spirit communication, if it's for good or bad. That's what I learned about Rose Gladden. Then I remember one day that Rose Gladden said to me, you have to come and help me, Marion. And Bob, of course, the same. So me and Bob will go to a certain address in London, and this is the address, and I will give it to you. So you come and you have to be with us, let's say 12 o'clock in the daytime, and we will then look into and see what there is in this house. Now the address, I can't remember, but let us say it was in Kilburn, and it was Station Road number 22. So I got my piece of paper, I went in the underground and found Station Road, and I got my paper and I was looking around at number 22. So I was counting the houses as you do 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going like this in the street. And as soon as I came to number 20, 21, there was no 22. And I thought, she's written this here wrongly. And I looked at it again. And I must have gone up and down this damn street looking for number 22. For me, did not exist at all. It was not there. It wasn't there. And I thought, she's giving me the wrong thing. It's probably the wrong bloody town I'm in. And I saw the postman coming walking down towards me. So of course, like anything else, I go up and said, sorry, sir, but could you tell me, where is number 22? And he looked very strange at me and he just went, there. And when I turned my head, I saw Rose Gladden and Bob Course laughing their head off. And I sort of looked at them and I thought, well, where did he come from? And then Rose Gladden says, come in, Marion. And that was the time that Rose Gladden told me something very interesting. He said, you are born for this, also to learn the darker force. And I can tell you why. And then she said, when somebody like you, who has got the ability, cannot find the place, looking for it, spirit are blacking you out so you cannot find the address where you're going to. They would do everything to distract you to get to that house, to help in all situations. You are blanked out totally. And you were that. Me and Bob Course were seeing you walking up and down. And we wouldn't help you. We wanted you to see if you can find it. And of course, I did that with the help of the postman. So I remember coming into this place. And one of the things I remember, and I can never really remember why she did it, but I thought about it the other day. She took her hand like this, and then she pointed a circle like this. And she said, now stand in that circle, Marion. And I did as what I had to do. I walked in the circle and stood there. And then she said, try to leave the circle. And believe me, I couldn't. I kept on swerving forward and backwards in this blasted circle, but I couldn't get out of it. That I remember and never really understand what that was all about. But I remember that is what Rose Gladden did, was create this circle in which I could not get out at until she snapped her finger, I could come out of it. I don't know why. I never asked Rose Gladden at that time why she did that, but it was just something I didn't understand. but it's something I have, as I said, over a period thought about. What was it that Rose Gladden did? But I do understand it now about the circle in which she created. Because that this kind of work that Rose Gladden taught me was finding the place, the exorcism part, which again goes into many different levels, because that exorcism is one of the most rarest things you have got. So when people tells me they're going out to cleanse a house for bad spirit, I just sit and says, you have no idea what you're doing and how hard it really is, or what it is. You have got possession, which is a rare thing that people have, but that means a complete possession. Not that spirit is part of you all the time, but you're part of your mind, you're part of things. Then you have got overshadowing, where spirit can go in. I have done that on Danish television, where a young boy was overshadowed quite a lot. But in depth, I have to tell you how he became overshadowed, because that's again what Rose Gladden taught me. How to look for it, the signs that were within this. How do you go in to investigate this, Marion? You don't just go in blindfolded. You have to ask for permission. You have to ask for help. You have to do. And that I can thank Rose Gladden for. In that situation, how much I have learned from her on this extraordinary work. And I have used that in Iceland, in Greenland, in Norway. I have used it in Denmark. I have used it in England. Exactly what she has told me. And the story then, I have to say, the most difficult case I ever have been into, has stretched itself, and you have to believe what I'm telling you now, 30 years. Not the result of it, but it is what happened after that I finished with a portion of this that I was let into. And believe me, had it not been for Rose Gladden, her teaching, and also telling me that part of actually doing what I will say, any form of cleansing the house, going in to do exorcism, you also have to understand healing, because part of it is also healing in the same time of the people, of the place, making it safe, making it good, making it everything. It is part of it. So the next story I would like to tell you, which is a very interesting story, because it's like being led into, if you like, another way into the ultimate, I call, with an exorcism. And also having what Rose Gladden also told me, cross-correspondent. That means you help each other. You ask for help outside what you understand. You get help, understanding, and spirit are, in a way, he will mix you up, if you like. They will get from this one, from that one, from this one. And this is here where Bob Course comes in, and of course being in prison. And this is where Rose Gladden came in to tell me and how I did it. So let me take you back to a place in London. It is actually in Kent. It was in Kent. And it was a very old farmhouse in London, outside London in Kent. I'm not quite sure how old it was, but Bob Course was contacted by a man that he knew from prison. So now here comes the circle. And they knew each other, but the young man who today owned this farm, that was also called Bob, quite funnily, he was in prison on a different scale. But he was in for many, many years, where I think that he met up with Bob that was not in for many years, but they knew each other through the prison life. And I didn't know any of this, because I am not told why I'm there. I'm not told anything. The only things I know were, here was this house. There was this farm. There was very bad to live in. There was much activities there. There was many things that happened. Would I like to go out? Because that Bob, this is the other Bob who owned the place, had asked many, many mediums to come out to help. Some of the mediums that's been out there said it had to do with Second World War with a plane that has crashed down and a soldier. Somebody else said it came from a neighboring farm. There was many different stories, but it never made click with that Bob because things still took place. So Bob Corr said to me, would you help me, Marion? I said, oh God, go on then. And we then, Bob Corr, myself, had to drive into Kent. And Bob Corr had a very big car at the time, a Volvo estate, we called him. And as he was driving into Kent, Bob sat there, and here comes the first clue. He said, I can't find the place. I've been out here 3 times. The road has gone. The bloody name of the farm has gone. I can't find it. He said, I'm going around in bloody circles. And I went, oh my God. And I looked at Bob Corr at the time and said to him, we are entering a very bad place, Bob. And he said, I know, but I can't find it. So I went out of the car, went and sat on top of the bonnet and saying, let me, with my clairvoyant ability, see if I can get where this farm is. So I sat on the car, and then he started to drive, and I could go left, right, left, and there was the farm. And Bob said, thank God for that. So we got onto the farm. And I remember the farm, yes, being a very old farm. I remember when we got into the place, what it looked like. It was in a room with an open fire, 1 door and 2 windows going into it, and sitting at a sort of a longish kind of table, or what it was we were sitting at the time. And I remember looking around and saw the most strangest things. And I thought, what is it I'm looking at? And I could see, we call it in English, gargoyles. It is small statues that sits on top of churches, sort of looking down like that. I could see that running along the floor. I was going, bloody strange things I'm seeing. It looked like animals running, but along and creeping along the floor. And I was sitting and I was saying to myself, this doesn't make sense for me at all. I'm not seeing spirit just as spirit. I'm seeing these gargoyles, this kind of thing just running around. So I sat down with with my eyes shut, and I asked for help with my own companion, which is my guide. And the first things I hear, ask Bob to tell you where he has been for the last 22 years. And I said, that's strange. Why do I have to ask him that? So I said to Bob, Bob, I don't know anything about you. I have been asked by Bob Corr to come out. I don't know. I know Bob and I don't know you. But would you like to tell me, where have you been in the last 22 years? And you could see his sort of face turned a little bit, and Bob Corr lowered his head like that. And he said, I've been in prison. And I said, you've been in prison? May I ask for why? And it took a little while to get it out of him. He told me he murdered his mother. Why and how, I do not know. I didn't want to go into details. But I do know that in 22 years he's been in prison, killing his mother. Mother left him a house. The house got sold and the money was put into a trust for him to when he got out. And it is that trust money that bought this farm in Kent. There you have the connection with prison, both of them, Bob and the other Bob, and the circle, how it goes around. So I sat there and I went around, but I should never have come out and asked all these questions or starting to feel and sense that something was wrong, because I said we're all on a different track, because that I don't understand. And I actually got hit. I got slapped on my face so it could be seen. And then I got pushed against the wall and I really slid down the wall, and I went, Christ, I mean, I don't know, I was in my mid-20s and I just stood up, and I remember being so shocked that this thing was happening to me. I thought I was protected. And I just stood up and my legs were shaking. I was shaking. If that's all you can do, you got trouble. I remember saying that to spirit or whatever that was there. So it was quite, for me, I have to say, a place in which has activities. But what kind of activities was it that was happening? I couldn't quite understand it. And I was looking for answers for it. I was looking, trying to get my companion, my helpers in to find out what was going on. But I do know that when you have been in prison with other prisoners that has murdered children, sexually assaulted, whatever, there's a certain kind of energy that will be based in those prisons. And if you are spiritual enough, you do pick them up one way or the other. And I was sure at the time, which I will come into later on, that there was a fact in that he has brought some of these energies, whatever that was left, spirit, gargoyles, whatever it is I was watching, was being brought in by Bob himself. It may not have been the house itself, but it was what he has done, how he has seen his life for the many years that he was in prison. At that time, I stood up and I said to Bob Course, I said, Bob, I am a medium. I cannot deal with this. This is not a medium's job, darling. There is something else that's wrong here, and I can't do it. You need to go out to find what it is known as a magician, not somebody, I said, who takes rapid up of a top hat, but somebody who understands magical things, somebody who understands spells, somebody who understands something else. You do not need a medium. No medium will ever be able to do this in any way. No way. You have to find somebody who can help in a way, I said, that they understand these magical things, these horrible things that are happening here. This is not a medium's role. And by that, we left the house. Now, what was very interesting were, I know that the house, after I think 6 or 7 months, it settled down and it was fine. That's all I know. But I never actually heard the end of the story until one day, and this is only 2 years ago now, where Bob Course suddenly came into my home in London. But this time he has left in London, and he now lives all the way down in Wales. He's got his house and do his healing in Wales. But he came to London because of a friend of ours passed over. So he came to see me and we had a conversation together. And at that moment, I said to him, Bob, whatever happened to the farm in Kent after I left? I know it got cleared out. And he looked at me and said, well, you never told Marion. And I said, no, not in 30 years have I actually been told what happened. And he said, oh my God, or call blimey, he went, Cockney. And I said, oh my God. I said, what happened? He said, well, you instructed by your companion, you helper, that we have to seek outside mediumship. We have to find what you sort of said, a magician.